Hey, Astro Kids, and welcome back. And in today's video, we'll be talking about the 12th Lord in all 12 houses. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So before we start, you first want to understand what is the 12th house and what does the 12th Lord represent in the chart. So starting off here, the 12th house is a very mysterious house because it is the farthest house away from the ascendant. So it represents everything that is foreign and unknown to us. This includes foreign lands, foreign cultures, foreign people, foreign travel, foreign residence. And this also includes our subconscious mind, our dream world, our connection to spirit, our spirituality, meditation, deep contemplation, reflection. This is all about going inward in this 12th house. So this is a very mystical house. This is definitely connected to secrets, to mystical studies, to deep research, to occult knowledge, to deep spiritual wisdom. This 12th house is our divine connection to God in this house. And this is definitely a house that is about escapism as well. That's about finding relaxation, sometimes through vacation, but also through self-destructive means such as addiction, such as extreme isolation can be seen in this house. This definitely represents isolated places like hospitals, prisons, mental facilities. This is a house sometimes that is seen as school systems as well. Anything that is secluded, anything that is cut off from the rest of society. The 12th house also represents our sleep because it is the house of the bedroom. So it's all about how well we sleep at night. It is all about our sleep patterns, our sleep habits are seen here. Also our dreams, and sometimes if we have planets that are placed in this 12th house, it shows that we also receive special messages through our dreams, which makes it a great place for keeping a dream journal. Also, though, this 12th house, because it is the bedroom, is related to sexuality and marriage as well. It is all about our intimate connections within our relationships, what we share with our partner. Along with this, the 12th house is the last and final house in the chart. So it also represents the final resting place. It is a house of death, of surrender, of letting go, of completion in this house. So this is a very interesting house here. Now, because this also represents the subconscious, it also contains our deepest desires and fears as well. Everything that is going on deep within the psyche, which is why this is a great house for therapists, for hypnotists, for all sorts of healers who are interested in understanding human psychology, interested in getting deep into the mind. So the 12th Lord then is going to be all about where we have to let go, where we have to surrender in life. And so typically wherever the 12th Lord goes in the chart is going to be a challenging area in our lives, at least on a material or mundane side of things, because this is going to force you to have to let go in some way or another. It is all about surrender with this 12th Lord in the chart. And so I talked about this before, how the 6th house and the 8th house are Dhisthana houses, which are all about these difficult, challenging karmic circumstances. The 12th house is another one of those Dhisthana houses, which is why we see so much of this need for surrender, of letting go wherever this 12th Lord goes in the chart. So this will be tricky. This will be an area where there's a need for this surrender. There's a need for this letting go. And there's a tendency wherever the 12th Lord goes to want to cling to that area, to want to fix that area, to want to idealize that area. But yes, you will have to surrender in that area. And by surrendering, this will give you a greater sense of wisdom and spiritual understanding in that house also. Now, it's also important to understand that planets that are in the 12th house will also be something that needs to be surrendered or that needs to be worked through on a psychological level. So you want to see if you have any planets that are in your 12th house. That will tell you what it is that you really need to work on in that 12th house of your chart. So if you have the sun in the 12th house, of course, you're going to have to work with your ego, with your sense of self. You're going to have to use it in a way that is making a positive influence in society and not in a way that is greedy or that is going to feed your ego. So that's something that you'll have to surrender in that house for sure. If the moon goes into the 12th house, then that can sometimes make you someone who enjoys isolation, who enjoys being in this space of alone time, but you want to be careful how you use this. Are you using that alone time to indulge in unhealthy behaviors, to use it as escape, or are you using this time for your spiritual practices? So, one of the things that is important when moon is in the 12th house is to be of service to other people. Because remember, the moon is representing our connection to the mother. It's all about nurturing, caring. And so you will be put in a situation where you must take care of other people instead of getting into this space of overindulgence and escapist behaviors. If Mars is in the 12th house, then that definitely means that you have some hidden feelings, some hidden anger, some hidden intensity that is within you that you may or may not be aware of, but it comes out in your behavior. It comes out in the way that you interact with others. So with this position, you want to be careful. You want to manage your anger levels. You want to avoid getting into arguments, conflicts, disputes where you are putting this anger forth in your connections. If Mercury is back in this 12th house, then this means that definitely you need alone time to process information. You have an intuitive way of learning and understanding things, which requires some silence and solitude. But remember that Mercury is a very clever planet that is all about doing business, making money. So basically, in all of the areas that Mercury represents with communication, with business dealings, and so on, that you want to do it in a way that is going to benefit others. Other people, not in a way that is selfish, that is egocentric. Definitely because the 12th house is secretive and Mercury is so clever, you want to avoid doing things that are undercover with this placement. If Jupiter's here in the 12th house, this is excellent. Jupiter loves being in the 12th house. This is definitely going to make you spiritual. It's going to make you charitable. It's going to give you a good heart. You have huge compassion. You want to help others in the world. And so just make sure that you are doing these things, that you are committed to helping others, committed to using your spirituality, your wisdom, and so forth. If you sort of slack off in this area, then sometimes there can be difficulties on your spiritual journey, difficulties with remembering some of the wisdom or knowledge that you have gained. So it's all about not just keeping that wisdom and knowledge and understanding to yourself, but also sharing it with other people. Because remember, Jupiter is guru. So it's all about teaching. It's all about counseling, guiding, making a difference in other people's lives. If Venus has gone back into the 12th house, then this means that you're very idealistic, very romantic. You're very much in love with love. And this could be good because this definitely means that you can have some happiness in your relationships. But at the same time, it brings in challenges when you become too idealistic. So be very careful about wanting perfection in your relationships, about being disappointed by the way that your partner is, that they're not living up to your ideas. Definitely you want to be more accepting of your partner with this placement. If Saturn's gone back into the 12th house, this is also a place that Saturn likes to be because Saturn is Karaka for the 12th house. So it's definitely going to make you someone who's very spiritual, religious, very dedicated, hardworking, dutiful, and so on. But you want to be careful that you're not overdoing it because sometimes there is a tendency to become too rigid in this area, to become too much about this routine where you are doing things just to stay in this strict routine of how it should be done rather than doing it from your heart. So there is a need to let go a little bit and to tap into that inner space rather than trying to make things perfect or trying to get things to be a certain way in this area. If Rahu's gone back into the 12th house, you make an excellent therapist, counselor, anyone who is going deep into the human psyche, or an artist, a storyteller, a writer. And this definitely means that you will enjoy isolation at some point in your life. The problem, though, is that Rahu deals with the external world, with the material, mundane existence. So Rahu really doesn't like to be in this 12th house, which means that sometimes there can be some challenges here. Remember that Rahu is what we're still sort of learning and developing in this lifetime. So while you will want to move into isolation, you may also have some discomfort in this area as well. And basically, because Rahu is a very unconventional planet that is all about breaking the rules, doing things in a different and unique way, you just want to make sure that you're channeling this uniqueness into something that's constructive, into something that can help make a difference, or something that is creative in this house. But you want to avoid using it in the wrong ways, doing things that are undercover, that are shady, that are behind the scenes. You want to avoid all of these things because Rahu is also a very karmic planet, which means that these things will definitely come back to you. If Ketu is in the 12th house, then this is excellent. Ketu loves being in this 12th house. And so this is definitely going to give you an opportunity to grow spiritually, to spend time in meditation, to spend time developing your spirituality. The problem is, though, that Ketu here shows that you spent a lot of time in isolation and in your spiritual development in a past life scenario. So because of this, you may also feel a little bit dissatisfied in this area in terms of being in isolation. It all depends on how your whole chart is set up. If you're someone who leans more towards extroversion, you like to be out and about socializing, then this might be a slightly difficult position for you. But even with that, try to find a balance. Try to be involved with your social life, but also take that time to yourself to be alone, because this is going to be very valuable in terms of you understanding yourself at a deeper level, growing spiritually, gaining that wisdom and understanding. So it's definitely something that you don't want to miss out on. Of course, if you're someone who's more introverted, where you really enjoy being alone, then this might not be as tricky of a placement to have in your chart. Now, some people also tend to ask a lot about if they will move to a foreign land, if they'll stay in a foreign land. Definitely anything that is in this 12th house or connected to this 12th house can take you into a foreign residence. So it can take you traveling to a foreign land, but whether that residence is permanent or not depends upon other placements in your chart. And oftentimes it has something to do with not just the 12th house itself, but also the 4th house. You have to see what is the connection between the 4th and the 12th house. Another factor also is that if Rahu is somehow involved, then that could also take you into permanent foreign residence, because Rahu is all about the things that are foreign and unknown to us. So that could definitely land you in a foreign location, and that could become a permanent thing for you. But it depends upon how this 12th Lord, how this 4th Lord, how Rahu is placed. All of this makes a difference. So it's not just enough to have a planet in the 12th house or to have something that is connected to the 12th house. It has to be placed a certain way in the chart. Now, I also want to give you a quick disclaimer, and that is that I am using Vedic sidereal astrology. So if you are coming from Western tropical astrology, then this interpretation will not work for you. Also, in this video, we will be using the D1 Rashi chart for the most accurate results. So again, if you're using some other chart like the Bhava Chalit, this isn't necessarily going to work for you in your interpretation. Also, it's important that you understand what the lords are for each of the signs. So if you have Aries rising, then your 12th lord is going to be Jupiter in Ketu. If you have Taurus rising, then you want to look for where's Mars in your chart. If you have Gemini rising, then you want to see where's Venus and the moon at in your chart. If you have Cancer rising, then you want to see where's Mercury in your chart. If you have Leo rising, you want to see where's the moon in your chart. If you have Virgo rising, where's the sun in in your chart? If you have Libra rising, where is Mercury and Rahu in your chart? If you have Scorpio rising, where is Venus in your chart? If you have Sagittarius rising, where is Mars and Ketu in your chart? If you have Capricorn rising, where is Jupiter in your chart? If you have Aquarius rising, where is Saturn in your chart? And lastly, if you have Pisces rising, then where is Saturn and Rahu in your natal chart? So starting off here, for those of you who have the 12th Lord in the first house, this is a very interesting position because now the 12th house of losses, the Lord of that house has come into the first house, which is your very journey in this lifetime. So this could definitely make you someone who is into your spiritual journey or who is into having time alone. You become more of a secretive person. There's something mysterious about you that is difficult for other people to understand sometimes. This placement can also make you someone who's very kind, who's very charitable. You love to give back, to help others, especially if this 12th Lord is a benefic in the first house. Then this can definitely make you someone who wants to help those in need, who wants to spend on making a difference. Because remember, 12th house is about your expenses, your losses. So you put this into helping those in need. If it's a malefic, though, then sometimes there can be unnecessary spending habits that can be seen here. But for the most part, this placement shows that you have this ability to replenish your resources even after spending them. So definitely there is this juggling act in this first house where you are losing but also gaining money with this position. Sometimes with the 12th Lord in the first house, other people may not completely trust you. There seems to be something that, again, is very mysterious about you. And sometimes people can believe that you are hiding something or that you're holding something back in your interactions, which may cause some difficulty sometimes with other people fully understanding you. This placement could also make you extremely attached to your place of birth or to your home location as well, because the first house represents the moment that you came into this physical incarnation. So there is some kind of deep connection that is seen here for sure. And this could also show a close connection with the mother as well with this placement, which could be negative or positive sometimes. There can be struggles around the mother, or there can be some sort of deep emotional attachment to the mother that can be seen. Now, the difficult part of this position of the 12th Lord in the first house, though, is that it is aspecting onto the 7th house. And because the 12th house deals so much with the subconscious, the imagination, there is a tendency to idealize your partner, to idealize the person you're getting into a relationship with. And you want to be careful about this because sometimes you could put unrealistic expectations on your partner, or you could put your partner on a pedestal and they're unable to live up to this idea of who they should be. So you want to make sure that you are definitely being more accepting towards your partner. And with this position, this is going to make you have to serve or surrender in some way in your relationship. So definitely you're going to have to be on your partner's team. You're going to have to be very supportive with this placement for sure. Sometimes also because the 12th house deals with foreign lands, foreign people, etc. This could also show that you attract someone who is from a foreign land or someone who is from a different cultural background, or there's some kind of distant connection in your relationship that can be seen as well. Sometimes with this placement, you could also hold yourself back a little bit in terms of how you approach life. There could be a little bit of a delay in the beginning part of your life because some of these subconscious fears are coming into your mind, because 12th house, again, is your subconscious and first house is your brain. So there are some fears or insecurities that can be related to this placement for sure. And it actually can do one of two things. It can make you shy away and hold yourself back, or it could make you push yourself a little bit too much into wanting to achieve or wanting to make things move forward in your life. And that can actually help you in becoming successful, in earning wealth, etc. but it could also cause you some stress as well. So definitely with this placement, you want to find ways to manage your mental health with this placement for sure. Meditation, relaxation, all these things can be very helpful for you. If the 12th Lord has gone into the second house of the chart, well, this is going to immediately impact you in your finances. So you will probably notice this immediately with this placement, that there is a difficulty with how you are dealing with your wealth, how your money's coming to you, how you're spending. Something has gone wrong with this placement because now the 12th Lord of losses has gone into the second house. So this could be frustrating for some of you as well, where you feel a little bit worried about your financial security, where you feel as though there's difficulty with you being able to manage or deal with this area for some of you for sure. And definitely with this placement, what this 12th Lord wants you to do in the second house is one, it wants you to have faith because this is a spiritual house, the 12th house. So when you give it all to God, when you allow the money to come to you instead of worrying about it or becoming overly attached to it, then this is definitely going to help you to increase your wealth. Another part of this, though, is that 12th house is about helping others in need. So, with this placement, it is about being of service to other people. So, the more that you're involved with charity, with spending on family members, spending in areas that can help those in need, the less that you're clinging to it or becoming selfish about how you use your money, the more that your wealth will increase. So, this is definitely not something that you need to worry about in this area, but just making sure that you have this attitude of wanting to help others and trusting that you will have what you need will increase the wealth for sure in this placement. It's also about avoiding using wealth for the wrong reasons. So, just like how using wealth for the right reasons to help those in need can increase your wealth, using wealth in secretive, undercover ways can create losses for you also. Also, with this placement, there's something special about your speech because now this mysterious 12th Lord has come into the second house of speech. So, because of that, you definitely have something very powerful about the way that you speak. And so, you just want to be careful of how you speak to others. You want to be careful of using your speech in hurtful ways, in sarcastic ways, in ways that can tear other people down. You want to use your speech to help others, to make a difference with this placement, and this will definitely help you. Sometimes also because the second house has to do with your early childhood experience, how you were raised. This could show that there were some challenges in the earlier part of your life, but it tends to improve with time. So sometimes there are difficulties with the mother, there's difficulties in some way in that early experience. This placement also could make you a little bit impatient when it comes to dealing with family, dealing with security, dealing with all of these factors of the second house. But if you let go, then again, all of these things will fall into place as they're supposed to. So this could also extend to how you deal with children, how you deal with family members. Definitely, you want to calm down in this area, and this will help you a lot. Sometimes there can also be losses in the family as well. So, again, related to some of those early struggles, there could be loss, separation. But even later on in life, when you have children of your own, there could be potential issues with having children. There could be loss of children. All of these situations can show up in this house. You could even find that in other forms of connection that are very important to you, that there could be losses as well. So there's this overall feeling of loss, right? There's a feeling that you can have a deep insecurity around losing the things that are valuable, that are meaningful to you. And again, you want to let go of this because everything will come to you as it's supposed to with this placement. If the 12th Lord has gone into the third house of the chart, there can be a detachment in your relationship with your siblings or cousins on some level. And again, it's about surrender. So when you become slightly more detached from your siblings, when you're not trying to cling on to those relationships, then they tend to work out more smoothly. This placement definitely is going to make you someone who is very strong-willed, determined, motivated. You want to achieve in this area. With this placement, you can have some skills around communication, around writing, and so on. But you want to make sure that you're using these skills in the right way, that you're not going on social media or writing things or speaking things that can harm other people. So definitely there's a need if you have any sort of grudges, anything where you are trying to argue, get into conflicts, to tone this down a little bit, to learn to let go and surrender in this area, and this will work out much better for you. This placement also could give you some issues in education as well, because this is directly aspecting onto the ninth house of the chart. So sometimes you could lose track of your studies. You could lose interest in your studies. There can just be a feeling of overall detachment from education with this position. It also could give a love of travel because of this third and ninth house are both about travel. And again, 12th Lord is about foreign lands. But you want to be careful because sometimes there can be challenges related to your travels to foreign locations also. This could also give you some confusion around what faith or belief system to follow, but you find this as you get older. You find this along your journey. So definitely it's about finding what you believe in, what's important to you, what do you value? Because with this placement, you could also find yourself getting into disagreements with father figures, with teachers, with those who try to instruct you, which means that you definitely have to find what's important to you. You have to find what you truly value with this placement. Sometimes this placement could also cause some restlessness. So anything that can calm you down, like meditation, relaxation, all of these things can be helpful to you as well. If the 12th Lord has gone into the fourth house of the chart, this can create some obstacles in your home life, especially early on in life. There could be issues related to your connection with your mother sometimes. You may have felt that you didn't get the emotional nourishment that you were seeking from your mother. There may be loss of mother. There may be all sorts of issues and difficulties that the mother has gone through in her life as well. Sometimes with this placement, you just don't feel completely connected to your family. Like they're not completely supporting you. There's some kind of distance, disconnection in this area that can happen. This also could give issues related to land and property. So sometimes there are losses in this area. So you also want to be careful about getting into real estate and all of these things because it can result in some potential losses and difficulties. This also could give you some issues in figuring out what your career path is because this directly aspects the 10th house of the chart. So, because the 12th house is about surrender, it's about helping others, definitely whatever you do in your career has to be about helping others, about making a difference in the world. And this is something that you will find as you continue to search for this direction. This placement also, though, makes you have to serve your family as well. So even though there is somewhat of a feeling of detachment that's happening as far as family, you do have a huge devotion and responsibility to your family that this is asking you to take on. Also, because the fourth house is about your mind, about your heart space, about what's going on internally, sometimes there can be a low sense of confidence or self-esteem within you. Sometimes you can feel a little unsure of yourself. But again, all of these things will start to improve with time and experience. So it will all get better with this placement. If the 12th Lord has gone into the fifth house of the chart, then sometimes there could be loss of children, difficulty having children. All of these things can take place. So this could be a little bit difficult. Children could also be difficult sometimes as well, but you have to sacrifice a lot for your children. So this is a huge responsibility that you have to take on in this lifetime. This can also be good for your spiritual studies because, again, 12th house is about spirituality, and the 5th house also has to do with all of the past and ancient studies and has to do with your education in general. So this can be excellent for learning about anything that is related to spirituality. This can be great for mantra, for meditation, for developing your intuition, for really taking that time to look inward and to access some of this deeper spiritual insight. You want to be careful because this house is also a house of risk taking, of speculation, gambling. So you want to be careful about all of these things because now the 12th Lord of Losses has gone into this house. So there could be some difficulties in this area as well. So you just want to be careful about all of these risk-taking ventures. This placement sometimes can be difficult if you are doing something that's related to business or the creative field or anything like this that is more speculative. So just being careful in these areas is sometimes important to you. And sometimes it's that you lose interest in wanting to do business. You lose interest in wanting to put the effort or time into these areas. But with this placement, you can find some wealth and success. So don't allow some of these challenges to deter you. Definitely, if you have more faith in God and you are really devoting yourself to your spiritual studies, this can help you a lot. The more that you worry and stress and try to control this area, the more difficulties you will find because this also aspects the 11th house of your wealth, of your incoming gains, of your success, and so on. So you could see some upsets in that area if you're trying to cling on too much. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 6th house of the chart, this is a difficult one because now we have a Dishtana that has gone into another Dishtana house. So this definitely shows that you will come into some difficulties in your life for sure. But there's also forms of a Preet Raj Yoga, which can help to reverse some of those negative effects as well. So with this placement, sometimes you are someone who likes to argue, who likes to get into conflicts and competition with others. But the problem here is that you're just creating more karma by getting into these situations. So the more that you can avoid all of these difficulties, the better. Also, you want to be careful with your relationships because this is behind the 7th house, which means you could have separation, divorce, arguments, conflicts, legal issues coming up in your relationships. So, toning down some of this tendency to get into conflicts with other people is definitely going to be much better for you. But sometimes you can't help it. You attract a lot of difficulties and conflicts in your life, and it's all out of your control. And so this is where spirituality can help you because this aspects the 12th house. So getting into spiritual practice, into meditation, into these areas that can help to calm you down can be really good for you. Also, animals sometimes can help you because the 6th house deals with small pets. So animals can be extremely healing. And with this placement, you can also tone down some of these difficulties by being of service, of helping those in need. This 6th house is all about the legal field, the medical field, again, small animals. So anywhere that you can help people, where you can make a difference in society, where you can help other people, help animals, all of these things can help to minimize some of the difficulties that you'll experience in life. And definitely this can show that you work in a prison, a hospital, a school, a mental facility, anything at all where it is an isolated place where you are helping other people. And again, this can help to remove some of the difficulties in your life for sure. Now, also something that can be helpful with this position is to figure out what is your Shadrapu. So I talked about that in my 6th Lord video. So some of you may want to check back with the video on the 6th Lord in all 12 houses to figure out what is your Shadrapu. And then you can work towards removing that weakness in your chart. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 7th house of the chart, this is really challenging because this is definitely going to bring some obstacles in your relationship. Sometimes with this placement, you can attract soulmate situations. You can attract people from your past life. Sometimes with this placement, where there are some deep karmic lessons to be experienced in your relationships. So this could be really challenging sometimes. You could feel like you're always in a crisis situation in your romantic relationships, but even in business partnerships, you could find some difficulties as well. Sometimes this placement could give you a desire for self-employment, but again, there could be difficulties in the business world with this placement, which could be very challenging. This could also indicate that your partner is from a different cultural background or from a foreign land, or there is some long distance communication that's happening. Because again, this 12th house is all about the things that are foreign and unknown to us. But this will demand a lot from you in your relationships, and it sometimes can feel a little bit draining or challenging, but you will have to be of service to your partner. You have to be supportive in the relationship. It's very important that you're doing this. You also have to be very accepting of your partner as well, because sometimes you can run into some difficulties in your relationships and you just have to surrender and let go. You could also come into financial losses in your relationship as well. There could be something related to your finances and your spouse where you actually end up losing money for some of you. With this placement, you could find that although you may want self-employment, that it's very difficult to handle it, that there's a lot going on in this area. There's a lot of fluctuations, a lot of obstacles, and it can feel very overwhelming. It can feel like a really difficult area of your life to manage. So sometimes it can work if you have a partner who's very supportive, who helps you to deal with these areas in business. But usually, again, this can be a tricky area for some of you. Sometimes this also makes you someone who's very family oriented, where you want a stable and happy home life. But again, there can be a lot of obstacles and challenges in this area where you just sort of have to let go and to allow God to step in this area. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 8th house, similar to 12th Lord in 6th house, this is a Viprit Raj Yoga. So you will go through difficulties, but you'll also find the strength to come back from it. This placement will take you through a lot of transformations in your life, a lot of situations of loss, of difficulty. But at the same time, you come back from those losses. So it completely transforms you and your whole life direction. You find a way to rise from the ashes and to rebuild your entire life with this placement. So this is definitely going to give you a huge amount of inner strength with this 12th Lord in the 8th house. Sometimes this also makes you a little detached in your work life with this placement as well, where you're not so much about wanting to move up the ladder or wanting to be in a situation where you are getting noticed. You sort of just want to go in and do what needs to be done in this area. Now, the trickiest part of this placement is that you could experience ups and downs in your wealth, because this is definitely a wealth house and it aspects onto the second house of wealth as well. So you could find that there are dramatic situations in your finances where you have major losses, but then you're able to replenish it. So this constant up and down that's happening around finances, which could make you a little bit worried or uncomfortable in your financial situation. But you can handle this. You can deal with this area. And if you allow God to step in, if you surrender in this area instead of trying to micromanage or control this situation, this can definitely help you to accumulate more wealth in your life. This placement can be really good in self-employment, especially because of these dramatic ups and downs that are taking place. So you can do very well in terms of your creativity, your skill, your talent. But again, this is a situation where sometimes you don't always want to move up to those situations where you get noticed for anything. You just want to go in, do the work, because this is a very secretive house. So for some of you, you just really want to get the job done in this area. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 9th house of the chart, this is very auspicious because, of course, 9th house is the house of fortune. So that's going to give you some good fortune for sure. But remember that the 9th house is about our principles, our philosophy in life. So the more ethical you are, the better this situation will be. If the 12th Lord goes into the 9th house, you are into religion, philosophy, into deep learning, into wanting to gain deeper understanding in life. And this will be a huge part of your life direction. This is huge that you're focusing on your spiritual journey. This will help to elevate you in your knowledge and understanding for sure. You're constantly searching, seeking for answers as this aspects onto the 3rd house of the chart. You're eternally curious. You want to learn, you want to develop your knowledge and wisdom. Sometimes this situation could create some disturbance, though, in your relationship to siblings or family members at times as well, because of this aspect onto the 3rd house. This placement also definitely makes you a traveler because both the 9th house and the 3rd house have to do with travel. And again, 12th Lord is having to do with foreign locations. So you could be into traveling, but here's the thing, it can create some obstacles in relationship to foreign lands sometimes also. This placement definitely can create difficulties in your education for sure. We have the Lord of Losses coming into this 9th house of higher education. So sometimes there is dissatisfaction in your studies. There's loss of course in this placement. There is some sort of difficulty that comes into your educational experience. With this placement, you definitely, again, want to remain ethical. You want to remain principled in your actions. Avoid getting into situations of rivalry, disputes, jealousy, conflicts, all of these situations of drama. This can definitely create problems for you in your life. But if you're more focused on this spiritual journey, on this search for deeper meaning and understanding, then you will find a lot of luck and happiness in your life. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 10th house of the chart, then this can definitely show some difficulties in the earlier part of your life because it aspects onto the 4th house of that home situation, of the mother, of nourishment, etc. So there's some sort of loss or detachment that took place in the earlier part of your life. This could also create some disturbance in your career situation as well. You could find some sudden ups and downs in your career. Sometimes you feel on top of the world, you're being successful, you're getting known and recognized for something. And other times, something happens dramatically to disturb this situation, whether you feel uncomfortable with the recognition and you just sabotage this and move away from it, or there's something else that takes place that completely disrupts this for you. And with this placement, it's really about being of service to others. The more that you make your career about helping people and about doing good in the world, the happier you will become. When it becomes about success, about fame, about recognition, all of these superficial aspects of life, initially it may feel good, but there is a lack of satisfaction around this for sure. With this placement, you could be some sort of teacher, counselor, mystic, mentor, guru of some kind, or in some way you apply this into your life. Because definitely with this placement, 12th Lord has gone into the 10th house. You're here to share spiritual wisdom. You're here to share some kind of wisdom with other people for sure. This could also make you interested in wanting to work in an isolated place, because again, 12th Lord is all about those isolated situations. So you could find more happiness if you're working more behind the scenes or within some sort of isolated facility like a prison, hospital, etc. This placement also is usually better sometimes for employment than it is for self-employment, because it really can disrupt your business situation sometimes as well. That's not always true, but for the most part, this is definitely a placement where you're here to be of service to others. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 11th house of the chart, then this means that your friend circles become extremely important to you. And this is a very interesting position because now the 12th Lord has gone 12th to himself. So now he's losing the effects of the 12th house, which means that definitely you are not so much about this isolation. You're more into your friend circle, more into connecting with people. But the problem is that the 12th Lord is a secretive situation. So sometimes you have to be careful about the friends that you keep. Be very careful about the company that you keep because sometimes friends have secretive motives, underhanded agendas. Sometimes you don't always know who your friends are with this placement. There can be some kind of confusion around this for sure. This placement, though, helps you in terms of your finances because, again, this is the loss of the 12th house, and 12th house was all about expenses. So you tend to gain good finances in your life. You're always finding a new way to increase your income. And even when you lose your finances, you can build it back up again because of this ability to find a new source of income. So this usually isn't a problem for you. This can mean that the earlier part of your life was more challenging, though, because again, this is going to aspect over to the 5th house of the chart. So sometimes family life situations in that earlier part of life are more challenging, but it improves with time. This makes you someone who's definitely family oriented, though. And if you have children of your own, especially, you're very devoted in this area. But in general, when it comes to family, you are a very nurturing person. You want to put a lot of care and responsibility into your family life. This placement can also make you somewhat concerned about your financial security because, again, this is back in the 11th house of your incoming gains. But again, you have this ability to rebuild your finances, so there's not really anything to worry about in this area. You make your finances work for you. This placement also shows that you need to be of service to other people because this 11th house is all about groups, all about society, organizations, communities. So definitely if you are involved in some kind of community work, some kind of service work, this can help to increase your fortune in life. If the 12th Lord has gone into the 12th house of the chart, this is a very interesting position because the 12th Lord is now in his own house, which always is going to give strength when the Lord of the house is in his own house. But this can also be a tricky situation because 12th house definitely causes disturbances. So with its placement, one thing that this will definitely do for you is this will help to contain some of your financial losses. So you are able to manage your expenses very well with this position. You're able to reduce some of those losses with this placement for sure. Sometimes this could make you someone who holds on very tightly to your money, especially if this is a malefic that's in this house. Other times it just makes you someone who is more of a minimalist with this placement, where you just are okay with a life of where you are just okay with a life of having less. And this helps you to maintain your financial situation. With this placement, it also shows that you're someone who needs a great deal of isolation. You love this alone time, and it helps you to find deeper spiritual truths, which you are after here in this lifetime. This also could show that you work in an isolated situation like a hospital, prison, mental facility, and so on. And so you could be of great help to other people. This placement definitely helps you in gaining luck. The more that you're of service, the more that you're involved with charity work. And these are usually things that come naturally to you. Sometimes if this is a malefic in this house, as I explained earlier in the video, this can mean that you become overly isolated, that you are forcing yourself into isolation. So this could have something to do with a fear or obstacle in your life that you are trying to escape. So you just want to be careful with that sometimes. But in general, for everyone with this placement, isolation is really good for you because it helps to really restore your energy levels and to give you a sense of empowerment within. It also helps, again, on your spiritual journey, which is something that you are looking for in this lifetime. Sometimes, though, because you are someone who is so much about being in isolation, it can be difficult to keep up with some of your connections. So it could be difficult to reach out to friends, to keep relationships going, to maintain those situations sometimes. It could make you someone who's very emotional as well. There's a lot of sensitivity here in this 12th house. You could also experience some losses around family members, or again, you simply have difficulty connecting with your family. There's some difficulty just keeping track of some of these connections. Sometimes in the earlier part of your life, you may have difficulties in finding your faith or belief system, but you find it eventually because you're on a quest to seek that deeper meaning in life, and you will definitely find it here in this lifetime. This also could make you someone who is into traveling to foreign locations. And sometimes this could even mean that you actually settle down in a foreign place permanently, depending on the placements in your chart. But definitely, this placement is all about you developing yourself at a spiritual level, finding that deeper meaning, that deeper truth within yourself. So this will take you inward at some point in your life.